You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about addressing resistance. This week, we read Confronting Client Resistance in Counseling Today 2022. In the article, it talks about 3 different types of resistance, Heather. But first, let's talk about resistance, the idea of resistance.
Right.
How do you usually describe that with a supervisee?
I think I would also throw in like avoidance, maybe.
Okay.
I think I would also talk about like overall being aware when a client, if I'm using it in a supervision stance, when a client is doing everything possible to avoid the actual thing that they need to work on. They came to you to work on maybe some anxiety problems or something like that, and they're just like really into telling you about the gossip at work, and they're really looking for other things that are just not necessarily, they're avoiding task avoidance.
I think, well, right before we started, I said that I think sometimes we use that word and it can almost feel like a cop-out. But I think that resistance is an opportunity.
It could be.
Or maybe it's like a different way of communicating something to you. But it maybe is we're going to get into the 3 types, but it's a less direct version of communication.
Right.
And so maybe the counselor feels like it's a mystery and they're going to try and uncover or understand better, or they have to, dig a little deeper to figure out what is it that you're communicating.
Right.
Okay. So it isn't necessarily like bad behavior.
No, because it could be perfectly okay or acceptable.
Okay. So our 3 types of resistance in the article that we read are, first is conscious. So conscious resistance. Can you think of some ways that you've seen this happen with a client or a supervisee? Or yourself?
In supervision, I can think of a situation, gosh, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago, something that definitely just needed to be like hit dead on. We were coming to the end of supervision and I was like, okay, so about those hours. Okay, so like bringing them up. Like the other part of supervision is the like accountability and the like paperwork and all those things. And this supervisee just was maybe excited that their hours were done, but then also really working in a situation where they had multiple sites. And so it was overwhelming to even think about. I had been tracking hours along the way, but it had probably been maybe 3 months since we'd actually talked logistic hours. So I knew we were getting close. But he like consciously was like, yeah, I know. Let's make a time to get that figured out. And I was like, this is the time.
So like you said, like it wasn't inappropriate. It was even a pleasant way of saying not right now.
Right.
But he was saying not right now.
Right. Not right now.
Yeah. Well, I think my example is maybe a little less pleasant. I can think of a time where I had a supervisee, new. She was just starting out, and we talked through a client situation, and I determined she needed to make an abuse report.
Ugh.
And we talked. I said, I know you haven't done that before. Let's talk through what you have to do, how it happens, what are the steps, what do you do after. Talked through all of it, and said, okay, so the next time I see you, then I'll be asking about how it went. It's a big deal. Like, we'll follow back up with each other. And when we did, she did not report the abuse.
Oh.
And she did try to kind of like change the subject or move on in our discussion and supervision.
I'm just not going to, I didn't do that and we're not going to talk about it.
Well, no, she didn't even say I didn't do it. I said, well, let's talk about that client again. What happened? And she talked all about the client and talked about the session that week and did not talk about any abuse reporting. And I went, no, I meant the abuse reporting. And then she went, I didn't do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good
Mm-hmm.
example.
Um,
Very consciously making a choice to
yeah,
not follow through with
yeah.
what.
What about, I kind of teasing, I asked, I mean, do you think that you have conscious resistance?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. In like in life, in supervision,
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
definitely. I'm trying to think of a great example that I can share on air.
Um, what about, I mean, even just managing your own work tasks? Isn't this
Oh,
like a
yes.
form of procrastination, maybe?
Absolutely.
That, like, oh, I don't want to return those phone calls.
Right.
So I'm going to do something different
Right.
because I just really don't want to
Right.
return those phone
Haven't
calls.
really played on the website lately. Let me do that instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Things,
Okay.
yeah.
The second type of resistance is stubborn resistance.
Hmm.
How would you differentiate stubborn resistance from conscious resistance?
So I think conscious resistance, like with my supervisee, was like, yeah, can we set up a time to do that? Like it's an awareness, but like still a little like not ready yet or I'm not there
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think the stubborn part would come in if it was like repetitive, like
Oh, you keep so
you keep bringing it up and they're like, no, no,
you
no.
maybe you the counselor are recognizing the cues, and so you're
Hmm.
gentle or
Right.
you're thoughtful. Maybe sometimes you do back up and
Hmm.
say, well, we can
We can
address
revisit
it a
that.
different
Right.
day or something. But that you're saying you keep tiptoeing up to whatever the topic is, and you get the same reaction over
Right.
and over.
Same
Oh,
pushback.
okay. I was thinking, me personally, if I like, I love to go to a CEU, but if they're, and I even love experiential types of counseling, but if I'm in a CEU and they want me to do an activity, I have this like bells and whistles reaction in my head, and it's
Right.
not. I mean, I don't say it. I'm certain that there's body language that is giving me away, but I'm in my head. No, no,
No.
no, 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 no. I do not want to do that right now.
Right.
Whatever it is, if it's
Right.
like, okay, draw a picture about, no,
Right.
you
Can't do it.
can't
No,
make me draw a picture right now.
not doing it. I'll do it
Um,
at home.
yes, I'll do that later. Writing down the question, not doing it right now. I'll do
Right.
it later. Yes, I have this
Hmm.
big reaction, which I mean, the fact that I do have that big reaction, I think helps me. Maybe if I do have someone who is stubbornly resistant as a
Right.
client or a supervisee, then I'm like, I get you.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm still asking you to do it.
Still have to revisit this.
Um, I mean, that's how I feel it in myself.
I also think we're gonna spin it up a little bit, but sometimes stubbornness is for a good thing. I
Okay.
have worked with a supervisee before that was in a clinical situation where what her and I talked about was what her game plan was.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't she knew it was not gonna jive at her setting because it
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
upset the apple cart a little bit.
Right. Right.
But she knew it was best for her client. Her and I had talked about it, and she does have some leeway there to plan her sessions as she sees
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fit. So having her stubbornness to see it through, even though she knew she was going to get some
Oh,
pushback,
yeah.
she knew it wasn't going to be easy,
Yeah.
but having that kind of persistence, I guess is what I would call
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
really did work as a positive
Yeah.
versus a negative.
I okay. I can see that happening. I was when you were describing that, I was imagining something similar but a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
What if someone is telling you, and I think that the two of you came to this plan together, but if
Right.
someone is telling you this is what you're going to do, and you as the counselor is thinking that just doesn't seem like that's going to work, or that does not seem
Yeah.
like the right moment, or I don't see that
Right.
working well. The I think that could be resistant. So then,
Right.
and stubborn resistance. So
Mm-hmm.
you're dragging your feet, you're
Mm-hmm.
avoiding doing it or saying it,
Right.
and maybe for good reason.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that can work to the positive too. Maybe for the reason that you just
Mm-hmm.
happen to have more insight on it, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like us, the supervisors, we don't actually get to be with the client.
Right.
So we might say, I would do this, or I'm recommending you do this, but they actually get to be with their
Mm-hmm.
client. And so maybe they know, I don't, I mean, Sarah Santray's like kind of out there for this person.
Right.
I do not think it's going to go over well. And maybe they drag their feet.
Right.
Maybe I don't know.
Right. That could be true.
So maybe both that you drag your stubborn. Maybe I think we keep saying stubborn equals dragging your feet.
Oh.
That you are slow to get going, or you find excuses,
Mm-hmm.
or and because you know that it is the wrong thing, or you
You
know
know
that it
this
is the
right
right
thing,
thing to
right?
do. Yeah.
You can be
Okay.
stuck in the middle.
The third type of resistance is unconscious resistance. Have you seen this before in clients or supervisees?
I think so, and I think I've even seen it in like family dynamics and different things
Mm-hmm.
amongst like parents to teenagers and just different things. But I think unconscious can be tricky. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you have someone that's unconscious about what they're not cued into what their actions are meaning or what they're
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I always struggle with finding it like how at what point are you pushing the envelope to say like, hey, do you know that
Yeah.
I have brought this up 4 times and you are
Yeah.
not, it's one
Yeah.
thing to like overtly say, no, I don't want to talk about that, or no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not ready. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have a client that you've had to continuously and they just like derail and go somewhere else, they're not even
Yeah.
aware that they're doing it.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I had this parent that I was meeting with for parent consultation. We were meeting pretty frequently. And nice, pleasant, agreeable guy, and always told a joke when he was uncomfortable.
It's like you can
I
tell.
mean, yes, it was like like on a late night show where they do the drums
Oh
and then they
yes.
hit
Uh-huh.
the
Yep.
cymbal, but
Yep.
on cue every time.
Wow.
You get a little bit uncomfortable, but and
Right.
like, well,
Right.
that is pleasant and agreeable, and you're like
Mm-hmm.
you're
Right.
funny, and but I did, and so I was meeting with him and his wife, and I did eventually say, "Have you noticed that you do that?" And he got a big grin on his face, and she looked at him, she smiled too, and she said, "He definitely knows. He definitely knows." Um, but I don't know that he knew in that moment, right? That
Right.
he
Right.
knew probably within their relationship that
Sure.
he would do it sometimes and she
Right.
would probably get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
But that right then in the moment in when we were talking about parenting, was he completely aware of it? No.
Right. Right.
Um I also have preteens that I think do this, that they will come in ramped up to talk about something that's
Not
off
of yeah.
topic, or that they'll change the topic
Mm-hmm.
and start talking about something else. And I've had a couple where I always let it go for a while. And I think, this is them telling me too much or
Right.
too quick.
Right.
Okay, we can slow down. But when I can see it's definitely a pattern, and not right when it's happening, but maybe when things are less
Mm-hmm.
intense, I'll point it out.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I don't know if you noticed that whenever we talk about math
Right.
class,
You.
we always seem to change the subject. Did you notice that? And I will let that, I mean, in the same way that I'm using it as a tool,
Mm-hmm.
that I will take it as a hint. Okay, this is too much or too fast.
Right.
I'll tell them that too, that it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean
Right.
you're doing anything wrong. I take it as a clue to how you're feeling. What if you also take it like a clue
Mm-hmm.
to show you
Right.
how you're feeling, that this is a hard thing to talk about, or maybe you're not feeling ready? Um, I had this one kid, we would pretend like we were like dinging a bell, because he became more aware that he did it so
Right.
often. And so he would go, "Oh, ding, I just did it."
Yeah.
"Oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
You
You saw
okay?
it.
But you want to take a break? Let's do something different, or let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about something different." And we did that. So he gained a lot of awareness that he was doing it so
Mm-hmm.
often. And then we moved up to a point where we challenged each other to do it fewer times in a session.
Ooh, I like that. That's really good. Right.
So when he just was totally unaware and he was doing it all the time, he was doing
Right.
it maybe, let's say, 10 times in a session, where
Right.
he would change the subject on me. And then he noticed, "Oh, wow, I did the pretend bell
Mm-hmm.
10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about tough stuff
Uh-huh.
today." And then we would, okay, let's see if we can do it like 8 times or fewer,
Right.
and do it a little bit less. So we pushing ourselves to.
Right. And pushing it to go from unconscious to
Mm-hmm,
conscious. I
mm-hmm,
mean, really
mm-hmm,
pushing
mm-hmm,
that envelope a little
mm-hmm.
bit.
Do you see this happening with supervisees often? Unconscious resistance?
Not as much, but I'm sure it's there,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
We see it. in when they have to do things that are hard, when they have
Yeah.
to make reports, they don't want to, um, they might be outwardly like,
Mm.
no, I hate this. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a supervisee not too long ago that their client needed a higher level of care.
Mm.
And it was like,
Right. It's a
every
hard
time
thing
I
to,
bring up
hard
higher level
conversation.
of care, you're feeling like it's something about you, you know, and
Oh.
really it was
Mm-hmm.
like, had to reframe it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, this is higher level of care is hard for you to talk about. So let's talk about why. Like, what is,
Mm-hmm.
take the client piece out of it. Why is this so hard for you to talk about?
Yeah.
And I mean, she's a newer counselor, and higher level of care made it seem like she'd failed or she had done something
Oh.
wrong.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like really, but I mean, we had danced around it for like a week, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we've now talked about this during
Mm-hmm.
supervision as a supportive call during the week, and you know, we're
Yeah.
still so.
Huh. I think I've maybe a way that I've had supervisees talk about this with me is that they compartmentalize and especially with a supervisee in an intellectualized way.
Oh, I can see that.
Because I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
in school mode a
Right,
little bit still. That maybe they would say something like, well, that's not work related.
right,
Or, oh yeah, I have a lot going on at home, but
mm-hmm.
that's home stuff,
Right,
so they're compartmentalizing and justifying
right,
that they don't need to, or it's
right,
not what we're supposed to be doing
right,
somehow. Um, or intellectualizing by like throwing out a lot of things they've read.
right. Well, I just read this article on
Mm-hmm.
this new kind of,
And,
you know.
and in your head, as the
Mm-hmm.
supervisor, you could be thinking, you just changed the subject from
Right.
being more reflective or
Mm-hmm.
personal. Okay, yes, we can talk about the
Right.
article you read, but maybe we need to get back to the
Right.
personal topic too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, thanks for listening today to Supervision with a Vision. Heather and I would love to hear about times that you have felt resistance in either counseling or supervision, and would always love to hear about topics for new episodes.